What is up, Cal fans? Welcome back to another episode of the California Golden Bearcast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Andy. Along with me, as always, is Rob. We're going to start off with the Bear Essentials, and we got a clip for you. So, Rob, roll the tape.
This is a really good team. They're good here. I mean, they are really hard to beat here. I believe they're 7-1 at home under this staff. They're hard to beat. But I also want to shout out the Cal Bears that showed up today. Unbelievable showing by the Cal fans, some of whom live on the Eastern Seaboard and some who flew all the way across the country for this. And man, I mean, we heard them right when we took the field. It was awesome, and really appreciate them and everybody else that watched on TV.
That warms my heart. It really does. Do we have like could we have like a Niners fan base renaissance where all of a sudden all of our away games turned into home games?
It could be. I mean, it's looking like. I mean, I believe the Boston College game, we sold out our allotment, right? That Boston College gave us.
And we did that for San Diego State as well.
We did that for San Diego State as well. So
let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're not. Let me just pour a little cold water on that. We're not going to have the Niners renaissance. I just don't think there's that many people that are.
Yeah, but at least from an allocation standpoint, we're doing a pretty
great.
Good job.
Yeah,
we're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. What's next? Vautech?
Yeah, it is Friday night in Blacksburg. That one's gonna be a little rough. That one's gonna be tough.
Like
it's
Friday night,
and it's a 4-hour drive from DC. Like it's not gonna be easy by any means to get there.
Is it close to anything else?
Roanoke, so you'd have to transfer flights from a regional airport and then fly into Roanoke, and I believe it's like 40 minutes or an hour and 30 from Roanoke to Blacksburg.
Yeah, you lost me at Roanoke.
Yeah, so it's a really, really tough place to get to.
Well, I mean, huge shout out for the fans. That was great. Did you feel like that came through on the broadcast? I don't think it did.
It not necessarily on the broadcast, but all of the little like images you got on Instagram and Twitter from like the Cal official handles, and also some of our friends that were there.
Yeah,
like it looked like that section was like fully Cal fans.
Okay. Yeah, it just didn't. I don't know if I certainly got the stress of the Cal fans during the last drive when they kept showing everybody with the same look. Yeah. I was looking around and I was like, where are the guys? Where are the guys?
Yeah. The section apparently was a pretty large section, so it was kind of hard to figure. We were looking at the TV too, trying to find some of our friends, but to no avail. But yeah, there's video that Callie took on the field of like the team rushing to the fan section and Kedu Olave just giving out like this like primal roar with two arms into the air as he approaches the fans, and that pretty much says it all, particularly with the emotions at the end of that game.
I love Cade. I still love Cade. Nick poured some salt on my boy this week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just the play on the field, yeah, there's some things we got to clean up for sure.
Well, I really do love the fans getting the shout out, and it would be a really nice unexpected outcome of this move to the ACC that our East Coast and, dare I say, Southern and Midwestern brethren all. Is brethren an inclusive word? I mean that in an inclusive way.
I believe so, yeah.
All get to come out and show up to, maybe that's it, right? It's like, we didn't expect that at all, because all of us are like, oh, we missed the away games at Oregon or Washington or going down to LA, what have you. Dare I say Arizona, but whoever may be bold enough to go on those trips. But maybe this is a surprising outcome where our friends that are in DC and New York, and I know there's more than just those two cities, but like maybe some Atlanta representation, maybe some Chicago folks, like all are able to make it out to some Cal games, and we have a better away section than we anticipate. And again,
I mean, we have to give a caveat to this game too, because it is Boston. Like,
why?
It is, well, just because it's one of the easier cities to get to. Like,
okay.
You know, it's a major city on the Eastern Seaboard. Like it's a relatively big metropolis city.
You feel like Miami has the same pool? Like people
I think
would
so.
go to Miami?
Yeah. I think those types of cities, I think, sure. But, we were just talking about Virginia Tech, right? Like, how many people are going to, even if that was a Saturday, it's like, to go all the way out to Blacksburg it's going to be a little rough. So, maybe even, like, Clemson, right? In South Carolina. Like, that's not going to be easy to get to. There aren't many. Maybe on the East Coast, definitely, there probably are one-way, like short flights. But from the West Coast or the Midwest, you're probably switching at least a flight at least once, right?
Yeah, good point. I mean, even Duke and UNC, you're flying to Charlotte and then driving 3 hours, or you're flying.
Yeah, or you're like flying to Chicago or to New York, and then you're flipping up on a plane to Raleigh-Durham.
Yeah.
So
and Raleigh is like, yeah, that's an interesting one. Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, regardless, great showing. Our dear friend of the podcast, Josh, was there. He texted me. He's like, "Are you here?" And I was like, "I am not." But I think he met up with Avi and Nam. I heard the Cal tailgate was huge, and I think most Cal fans were also, at least from our friends, they were all surprised at how good the tailgating scene was, and that it's like for Boston College, it is like a thing. It is part of their culture. So I've seen some pictures of what it looks like and how packed in it was in the tailgate areas, and it looks great. And it sounded like they had fun. Our dear friend Nam might have had too much fun before the game, and if you follow Avi on Twitter, you might have seen his tweet about them watching the game from inside the basketball stadium, which is another crazy story in and of itself. Apparently the basketball stadium for Boston College is attached to the football stadium. So Nam was wandering the concourse for the bathroom, and then he somehow ended up in the basketball stadium. And so there's pictures of him sitting inside the basketball stadium. I guess they had some like alumni event or something inside the basketball stadium too, like on the court. So it was set up for that. And then on their jumbotron in the stadium, like the BC Cal game was showing. So he was just like watching it from there.
Wait, didn't he have an IV in?
It wasn't a literal IV, figurative.
Oh, it was like a liquid IV.
He was getting some liquids in him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Y'all made it seem a little bit more crazy than that.
Yeah. But it wasn't as crazy. But we were joking about it. It was kind of like if Nam was at a Cal basketball game, like at Haas, and then he like wandered off and then took the tunnel to the RSF and then was watching the Cal basketball game at the RSF.
Pretty accurate.
In essence, that's what happened.
Amazing.
I called Avi on FaceTime just to see how they were doing. I called them mid-game, and right when I called them, they were on the concourse and they were like getting back to their seat, and I was like, "How are the vibes?" Right as I say that, Avi's like, "Oh no, I hear cheering," and I was like, "Hold up!" I ended the phone call. I ran back to the TV at Headlands, only to see Turbo Richard running down for that 72-yard or 71-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
And then I called Avi after the game on FaceTime just to get the vibes, and he's standing alone in the stands. And I was like, "Where's Nam?" And Avi goes, "I'm pretty sure he went to go find a bathroom." So,
Hey, this is a perfect time to say that Nam is going to be co-hosting the Bearcast next week.
Responsible co-host of the Bearcast next week. Yeah, we're going to shamelessly plug that here. We might as well plug it here, right? I mean, we Andy kind of alluded to it last week. I don't know if we've announced the special guest yet. It might be announced by the time we record this, but just for the sake of everything, I'm not going to reveal who it is, but we do have a special guest. But we got the opportunity via Cal Athletics, Cal Marketing, to record an episode of the Golden Paracast on the stage at Oski's Village on Memorial Glade this upcoming week. So we will be there for an hour talking Cal football. We'll be talking about this Boston College game, what to look for in the Duke game. I believe we'll be there around 5 o'clock to 6 for about an hour. So come on by, hang out. We're going to have stuff to give away. Of course, we have a special guest. And then we also, may or may not have some merchandise to throw into the crowd, and if you're lucky, you might catch one. So come around, hang out, and we'd love to meet all of you and all of our listeners, and to be able to interact with all of y'all.
Gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yes, come on out on Saturday and cheer Nam on, and hopefully he'll forgive us for the beginning of this podcast. We shall see. We shall see.
We shall see.
All right, let's go to the intros of the game. So, key storyline going in was essentially how would Cal respond to getting shellacked against San Diego State and shut out. So, Rob, I'm going to you for the vibe check going in. What was Headlands like?
Headlands was great. I think everyone was kind of just like, a little bit anxious, a little nervous. Like, what is this Cal team going to look like going into this Boston College game? I will say the atmosphere was not great after we went down 14-0. But
no, it was not. It was not. It was not great either.
The vibes were not great.
Vibes were not good.
Yeah. But then it turned real quickly. It turned absolutely real quickly, and that's one of the talking points we'll talk about later. But I think that the vibes were exactly as you said. How was this team going to respond? What was this team going to be when adversity hit again? And kind of in the same fashion. And, everything that I had heard leading up to this game from people within the building was that the San Diego State game was a big learning experience for this team. And that was kind of the same sentence I got from multiple people. So I was like, okay, I'll take it with a grain of salt. I need to see it first before I truly believe it. And I kind of got to give them credit, because it does look like that they learned and they grew from that experience. So what a game. I mean, we talk about all our friends that were there, but Avi and Nam, because we're the closest to them, they were at the San Diego State game and then they were at this Boston College game. What opposite ends of the spectrum of a Cal football experience you could be at in back-to-back weeks across the country.
But I agree. And I also want to add, in some ways, didn't it feel familiar?
It did.
That's the weird thing about it.
It did.
Is even though I agree with you, if you looked at this, especially as an outsider, remember our dear listener in Australia who joined us last year for Cal? I think if you're looking at it from that perspective and you're like, I'm new to this, I agree. You look at that and you're like, tale of two stories, very different. But then oddly familiar. And I think that's a problem. I think that's there's pieces of this that we'll go into here in a second that I look at and I'm like, why is this familiar? It shouldn't be. To your point, it should feel like two extremes on the spectrum. But it didn't. It didn't for me. It just felt like I strapped back into the wild roller coaster, which was fascinating. So, okay, I don't want to go too much into our game reaction and breakdown. Let's take a little break right here, and then we'll come back in with the game. Okay, game reaction. Rob, actually, just going to start with you. What was your reaction? How did you feel after this game?
Relief. That's the first emotion. It's been a while since I've been unable to bear to watch the TV screen as a game unfolds. This was that the last 2 minutes, or not the last Cal drive, but after Boston College got the ball with, I believe, a minute 30, minute 40 left on the clock. And then, we pushed them to third down about in midfield, and I believe it's 3rd and 11 or something like that. And then we give up the first down. And I was like, as soon as we gave up the first down, I just in my gut, I knew. I was like, we're going to lose this, aren't we? And they had two brilliant chances. So yeah, I think my thing was relief as soon as the game was over. But having taken a step back to watch the game and kind of take some notes on it. Like, my biggest takeaway, and this is where you and I differ, because you were like, it's the same movie. And for me, it was the same movie up until we pulled out the win. But in analyzing it, it really wasn't the same movie, because just the week before, we basically went down the same amount of points, right? We were down 20-0. And it just didn't look like we had the belief to be able to come back to do it. There was no sense of urgency from the team. There was no they weren't playing with haste, knowing that they were against the clock and they had to score points to get themselves back on the board. And, granted, it was early, right? It was still the first half, but the reaction by the team and the answer to the question of, can you step up to the challenge of being in a road environment, in ACC play with talent that's more equivalent to yours than of San Diego State, and be able to respond by putting pressure on their defense and scoring as a team. And from the defensive side, could you make the adjustments to stop them from scoring and give your offense a chance to play catch up? And I think both sides of the ball did that. I was very impressed by the response after being down 14-0. The urgency was there. The plays were there. Like, not the play calling, but like the actual making of the plays, the contested catches, the extra yards here and there. Kendrick's, just angry running between the tackles. And then the offensive line, I think, also got better push as the game progressed. That's another discussion we need to have about the offensive line and run plays. But yeah, I think initially it was a sense of relief. And is this the same movie again? But for me, having rewatched it, I think it was a page-turning game, more so than some people might think.
Okay. I mean, for me with the San Diego State, I walked away with a little bit of a different interpretation of that game. Like, I always felt like we were driving downfield, and then we would just have some huge mistake that would be 10x'd by the outcome that happened with it, that would prevent us from having that one score that would put us back in it. There's early plays that kept us out of the end zone, and then bigger plays that continued to halt what I thought was there was opportunity there. So I think I see more similarity in this game because of that. But the resilience, I mean, I have to give credit where credit's due, right? After 14-0, I was all right, I basically threw in the towel. I was this is it. And the team completely disagreed, and good for them. And I think that resilience is amazing to see. I thought it was a very complete game, especially from the wide receiver group. Probably the best game, not probably the best game of the season from wide receivers.
Yeah,
Tron and Jaron have a really special thing going where he's cool, I'm going to hit my, whatever, is he 6'4", 6'6", 6'6", 6'4" receiver?
6'4", yeah.
6'4" on the outside, and just throw a jump ball and have the faith that it's either, that he's going to come down with it or it's not going to be intercepted. And I think that's been amazing to sort of see that between those two. But I think my overall takeaway with this game was that we should have won by 14. I at least that's how I felt. And maybe on rewatch I would feel differently, but I remember afterwards feeling more of relief, like you said, than necessarily confidence. I wanted the confidence to come from being able to win this game a little bit more decidedly. And I think it came down to one thing for me, which is just these short yardage plays. And I'll say this for all the football teams I watch, the Niners, Cal, that's it. Whatever random team I watch. But, I watched a lot of college football games. It was a great weekend of the ACC. The Virginia game
top
was
tier.
So good.
Cinema, absolute cinema.
And then, Georgia Tech and Wake was really good. There's just so many great games in the ACC this week. But it is amazing to me that, the Eagles have figured out this tush-push thing. And I know we had it in our playbook 2 years ago. We definitely did. I saw us run it. I remember you saying that we were practicing it. So I know but it doesn't seem like anyone has really used it the same way the Eagles do. When it's 4th and 1, we know what we're doing. Everyone in the stadium knows what they're doing. right? It's 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. Doesn't matter. Everyone knows. And then they just run that tush-push play, and it works like, I don't know, 95% of the time. But this game drove me insane because it kept being the same thing over and over again, which is like, okay, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, huge play for Cal, and we just seem to not have, I don't know. It's tough when it just seems like that exists as an option, and it's so abundantly successful at the NFL level. Like, why haven't I'm guessing injuries would be a reason why to not necessarily like use it, but I'm shocked, like just as shocked that I don't see it like copycats everywhere. And the Niners have run it a couple of times, right? And then Brock got a concussion once, but I just felt like the short yardage stuff was driving me insane. And if we had executed better in short yardage situations, this game is not coming down. We were literally that was a hell of a play. Was it Cam Sidney that was on the outside that just decided to go for the hit instead of trying to get the ball?
Yep.
And then like the ground like also helped and the ball pops out. I mean, that's it, dude. Like, we're that play away from losing this game. And I thought it was like an extraordinarily winnable game. And I keep coming back to like, it's not the same movie because the outcome is different, but it kind of is the same movie. It's a toss-up game on the road that shouldn't have been a toss-up game. It should have been Cal winning more handedly. We did win because Jaren is amazing. Mason made an amazing play. And massive credit to the team. But I want us to get to the standard of not having to accept these sort of like toss-up games and really thinking that like when we have these opportunities, we're executing at that like level. I just don't think we're there yet. And then seeing Stanford nearly lose to San Jose State and being like, this Boston College team lost to Stanford, to that Stanford team that nearly lost to San Jose State. And then, you go back to San Diego State. And for me, my main takeaway is I think I just punted. I literally think I punted. Great win, great vibes. I'm so stoked that it came out and we're 4-1. In no way am I changing off of like my season prediction. Zero. Like I didn't come away from this getting any additional optimism. And I think that's like concerning. So I will pause there. That's a big point that I want to let sit with you.
Well, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Because I'm not necessarily in the camp of like we've turned the ship around and we're fully heading in the opposite direction. But if you start to take everything into account, right? Like the talent that we lost in the portal and like who we've replaced it with and, across the board. And then, the coaching changes with a new offensive system and basically an entirely new offensive staff. Like we're kind of going full tilt in the opposite direction of last season where we're winning the toss-up games. And like, I think that's the struggle I'm having with is that, yes, I do want a standard of winning, right? And I do want a standard of how we win. But having gone through the last 8 years at this point, like, am I really in a position where where we can want that standard? Should we just secure the wins first and then figure out how to win more emphatically later? Because we just haven't been winning. And so I think that's the lens I'm viewing this season on, which is just like, are we just winning the games? Like, I do not care how we win the games. Just win me the games. Because in order to shut like the general public and the general, the persona that the mainstream college football has put on Cal football is that we just don't care about winning and we just don't win enough. So if that's what we're trying to cure this year, which I think is fair with the schedule that we have, I don't really care about how we're winning this year. But if we do put up, let's say 8 or 9 wins or 10 wins this year, then yeah, definitely starting next year, it's like how we win matters because we're going to need to blow out the lower teams in order to kind of be on that trajectory of being competitive with the upper teams, instead of like people just going, oh, it was just they had an easy schedule last year and they just kind of lucked out. It was just a blip on the timeline.
But you still think 8, 9, 10. That's where your head's at.
Well, I'm looking at the rest of the schedule, and it's not like we have like tough top 25 teams that we have to beat. Like they're winnable games.
The winds have doth shifted, my friend.
I mean, the S&P Plus rates us as only 2-game favorites, but like that's being held back by the San Diego State, the 34-0 loss. But like
Duke.
I mean, Duke. Yeah, I mean, the Duke's not going to be.
Good...
Duke's not going to be easy. Yeah, Duke's absolutely not going to be easy. But like,
Virginia,
if you look at who they've played, like Elon, FIU, and FAU and NIU, like, not really like real setters for their team, and judging like who they're playing. And then they blew out Syracuse last week, but Syracuse also lost their starting quarterback the week before to an Achilles injury. So like that wasn't competitive by any means. So who knows what the Duke team is? Like I don't know what the Duke team is. I do know they're going to be a tough out for sure. And then UNC is just, who knows what UNC is? Like I don't think you can call them a good or great team, but they certainly aren't a bad team. So they're like somewhere in the middle. UVA is probably the one where you're like, oh, that's basically the Pitt of last year. Like they're looking a lot better. Chandler Morris is really a really good quarterback. Virginia Tech fired their coach, like, and that's that. Louisville's probably the toughest game for sure. Stanford, who knows what Stanford is, because they look different every single week. And then SMU definitely isn't as good as they were last year. We're probably going to be underdogs in that game, but still they weren't as dominant as they are last year. So, like, I'm not saying it's like guaranteed 8-9 wins, but the path is still there, because there's no teams in the back half of the schedule where they're like undefeated or they're in the top 25 and they're looking like they're going to just be raking wins until they play us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the counter that I would have is that if you don't execute in these games, and it is what makes you susceptible to the loss. It is what puts you in the coin flip situation. And when you're not able to, convert those short yardage situations that really put this game completely out of reach. I mean, I outside of that clear PI as well that happened, I mean, it just felt like there was an opportunity here to sort of say like, hey, we're not going to be the team that is involved in sort of these crazy games. And there's nothing here that's changing the narrative, right? The narrative is we can play up to any team when we're not favored, and we'll play down to any team when we're favored. I don't see how this game changes any outlook in any substantial way. I think Duke is, I'm not expecting to win the game. And then you have UNC. I don't know. Like, we legitimately could play down. There's no reason for us to lose that game. But it's impossible for me to sit here after what I've seen so far to say that I have the confidence that we can win it, because we can't execute at the level that we need to in order to have those wins that make you say, this is a different team than we've seen over the last 8 years. It's like the same ridiculous mental gymnastics that I was using to justify Bob Melvin being around still. And like, obviously you see someone like Buster Posey, who's a competitor to the insane degree, and he's like, no, it's not good enough. This like 500 BS isn't good enough. Like, we have to be better. And I just think that like, that's why having Ron Rivera is so important. It's to give us this perspective this year that I really don't want this to be the same old Cal roller coaster. Like, we have a very special, talented quarterback in Jaren. And I think that when we put ourselves in these games to like lose against like a Boston College team that we, should beat, it's hard for me to walk away from that feeling like assured. And I will say, like, I normally go to Write for California post game wrap, whatever recap. Good job, Rick. He does a great job. So I like go and read all those comments. It's a pretty mixed bag. Like, it's not the positivity of like, you tell the story, and or like as it was last year when we were, X location is bear territory. There's some of that, but there's also a lot of people that feel like they've seen this before. And I think it's concerning for me. I just didn't, I don't know. I'm trying to be really honest here. Like, I don't want to be that person, but that's how I walked away from this. I just didn't really walk away from it feeling like we played a complete football game. I don't think we have. We haven't. Yeah, I think Oregon State is the most complete football game that we've seen so far. And everything else is, Minnesota, you could make the case that it was now like a really fortunate couple of plays that really tilted that. That Minnesota win looks good. It really does. But I hate to say it, but like, I'm going in looking at this Duke game being like, okay, what is this team actually going to be? And then I think I'm going to do the same thing for UNC. And then maybe at that point, because that'll be after a bye week, Friday night, maybe then I can say, okay, I think we know what we have. But like, I don't know. So like, to your point, maybe it is us finding our way to like 8 or 9 wins. I just don't see it. I think it's us finding our way into 6 wins. I see it's finding our way to 7 wins maybe. And then we go down the same path again of like, can we really build this thing back up? And can we retain the top tier talent? And can we I just sort of like, I do have that feeling more so than ever. And I just
if we're
having a hard time figuring out why.
If we're 6-6 with where we are right now, like, that's an abject disaster of a season.
We've lived that season, my friend.
I know, but what I'm saying is like with this particular schedule, because like you could other years, you're like, well, yeah, we had that gauntlet of like 4 games where we're playing Oregon and then Washington and then SC and then Arizona or Arizona State when they were good, like.
Right.
Like you could convince yourself of like, we were playing better teams and we lost, and that's probably where we ended up 6-6. But like, you're 4-1 right now, right? With 7 games left to play. So if you only are able to win 2 games out of your last 7, like, with this particular schedule too, like, it's an abject disaster. And I would be wanting a regime change if that were the case. Like, I think that's the light at the end of the tunnel ish, is because like, if he can't get to 8, 9, 10 wins with this schedule, then like, we have to make a change. Like, especially with this contract situation right now too, it just doesn't make sense to go with this for another year. And that's kind of why I'm looking at this season with the lens of like, can we make week to week adjustments and can we just win games? Because under Wilcox, like, we haven't been able to win these types of games and get that stench off of like, we go on a slide, or we like, once we lose a game that, we had some hype going into, like, we just start this losing trend. I've had multiple conversations last week about like, is this the game where we start that loss slide? And I was like, that's a fair question. Like, it depends on how these guys come out and, what they will through this adversity. And, it kind of also speaks to that KNBR, thing with Ron last week, right? That we had on during Golden Tweets. Like, we've had this like, here we go again thing, and I think they're trying to get themselves out of that thought process and like that echo chamber of like, as soon as you get into a loss like that, like, here we go again, and then we just start like a 3-4 game losing streak. And that's where I kind of feel different about this, because just from the way that they bounced back for me was big enough and consistent enough throughout the rest of the game where I felt like this could be that. That's not to say like, this team has its issues, right? Like, this team definitely has its faults. So it's not going to be an easy like 8 game like an 8-win season or a 9-win season if we get that far. But like, personally, like, I just can't. I don't think I could go through the season expecting us to be the same, like we have been in years past. Because otherwise, for me, I'm like, well, then why am I watching this team? Like, if I'm expecting the same result, because I have high expectations for this team, particularly because of Jaren and his development, and of course, we're going to see freshman mistakes, and that's kind of what we saw in San Diego State, and that's kind of a little bit of what we saw early on in this game. But then, he turned it right around, and I believe after his first miss, he went 9 of 9 throwing the ball. So we're gonna get the moments of brilliance, and we're gonna get the legacy drives like he did on that game-winning drive to Mason Minnie. And so, like, this team is gonna be built on the magic of Jaren. That's just, sadly, that's just the way it's gonna be because of how this team is built and where our strengths are and where our weaknesses lie. We'll see where we are in like 3 weeks.
I mean, I think that you can show up for teams in multiple ways, and you can stay tuned and watch every game and show up to each game thinking that you're seeing something that is familiar and similar to what it has always been, or you can take the approach of like hoping to find something different. And either way, you're going to get to the same outcome, which is you're going to figure out what it was. But the important thing is to keep showing up. And that's where I think there's consistencies in that. Yeah, I mean, look, again, so we'll transition. Talk to me about the game-winning touchdown.
I mean, that was just brilliance at its peak, right? It's I think Jaren in his post-game presser regarding that play was like, I had to improvise, and Mason in his post-game conference or post-game presser was talking about how like he's getting the hang of it, of playing with Jaren and knowing like where he likes to have space. And if you watch the play, like, develop, I tweeted it out too, but it's incredible. It's two things. It's one, an incredible adjustment by Mason Minnie, because you see him running with his hips facing inside. And then when he looks back and he sees Jaren taking off to Jaren's left, you see Mason flip his hips, and he is parallel with Jaren running to the sideline. And that's the Aaron Rodgers scramble drill, where all the receivers at different levels is running in the same direction as their quarterback, so he doesn't have to throw across his body. And you're hoping that he gets a window to throw to some level against the defense. And good God, he threw that perfect pass over 3 defenders to get to Mason, and then Mason was just off to the races, and he was open for the touchdown. So like, just the moment of brilliance from Jaren and using his feet to be able to make a play with his arm, much like we were talking about last week, and what Avi was saying, it's very, very Aaron Rodgers-esque, and it's very, very Aaron Rodgers-esque, and there's not a lot of guys that do that, and they do it well, and he does that. He slides in the pocket, he slides out of the pocket, he gives them the threat of running for the first down, but instead uses his arm, and because his arm is so good, it's the 15, 20-yard plays. So
yeah, what a cool call out. I love that you brought it from the perspective of like the receiver. And I would never have thought of that, but it is very familiar. And yeah, I just thought like on the run, it was such a good ball too. It was really amazing. Incredible. And like leaning left and just in the perfect spot. And yeah, it was amazing. I felt like you were watching an NFL level throw. Like,
I mean, if you rewatch that throw too from the angle from the end zone, the ball kind of curves, which is super weird. Like, have you seen that? Have you rewatched it from the end zone?
Like left to right, right to left?
It like spins.
Left to right, I'm assuming?
It goes, we're from the end zone, right? So we're facing Jaren. Jaren's looking at us. It goes from left to right. I don't know like if it's like a lefty thing, but I was just like, this is incredible. Like I'm gonna throw it on the screen here for you real quick, just so you can see what I'm seeing, and hopefully I'm not like seeing things.
No, I'm sure you're not. I mean, if you're throwing from that angle, here, I'll wait.
Yeah, but like watch. Well, this is the mini
can you maximize?
touchdown. But watch this throw. Right? Am I crazy to think that ball goes from like? It's not a straight line. Unless I'm like getting my eyes are playing tricks on me.
Your internet is not capable of showing this clip
okay.
at the same time.
No, that's unfortunate. But yeah, it's
Yeah, you sound like a robot, my friend.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It can't. It's having a hard
It
time
can't
handling
handle
it.
it. All right, whatever. We'll stop sharing. But yeah, it's the throw is just like the throw's insane. As you said, the throw's an NFL throw, and it's just like I don't like. When's the last time you've seen a Cal quarterback be able to make a throw like that? Davis Webb.
Dude, I love Jack Plummer.
I mean, he is an NFL quarterback.
Dude, he was so good. I felt like he could make those throws. Like he could move on the run. Not to the same degree. Like that one was really special to me. But he was much more mobile than we gave him credit for. He had the world's worst offensive line. He had great arm, but threw such a good ball. Obviously, did so well at Louisville. So, and yeah, to your point, he's an NFL quarterback. So I do feel like Plummer is usually the one I go to. Dude, I got to give credit where credit's due, man. Like Fernando is a good quarterback. Like he's a good quarterback. He's playing great right now. So, I think Mendoza made some pretty good throws last year as well. But again, it just wasn't the situation here, the gravitas. Like, I think the situation here made that throw, so much more impressive.
Yeah.
And again, I'm with you. I'm not surprised about the like left to right or right to left. I would assume that like, again, like from an arm angle standpoint, like if you're throwing like depends, right? But I'm like trying to think about like baseball. If you throw
and
from
the
a
spin of the
side
ball,
angle,
yeah,
probably right. You'd probably get a little bit more of that, but like I do think to your point, it's still really cool, and you can sort of see that in the future of like, okay, is there a situation where you rolled out left? Could you, if you could actually whip a ball left to right, could you, in theory, have it go sort of out so that your receiver could really only get it, right? Because you could, in theory, push it out of bounds or somewhere where a defender can't be. Anyways, too far down the rabbit hole. Yeah, I just think like Jared, I'm working on his name at all times. Jared Kiave Sagapolutele.
There you go.
Is an unbelievable talent. And the story of this and him being at Cal will never get old. And I think we have an opportunity. It was so interesting. What did you think of us? Like, we rolled him out to the right a couple times. And it was fascinating. Sort of forcing a quarterback to go opposite direction.
It feels like balance. Honestly, that's all it feels like to me. It's just maintaining a threat that he can roll out to the right as well, so they don't sell out on only blocking a rollout to the left.
Yeah,
is what I would assume.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the easiest answer.
Max Brown. Yeah, I know. I think that's the right answer. Keeping the defense honest. Yeah, I think Max Brown was so impressed with, like, obviously he was impressed with both QBs. I didn't realize how good
Lonergan.
Yeah, I didn't realize how good he was coming in. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, and
former Bama.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Former Bama, knew Bill O'Brien during recruiting, but I want to get your take on officiating.
Yeah, pretty
What was that? There were so many flags.
I don't
It was
understand.
a terrible
this game.
viewing experience.
Yeah.
It was so slow.
It's like
slow.
it's. I mean, Bill O'Brien in his presser was talking about the officiating too. I'm sure he's gonna get a fine from the ACC because he basically called out the ref by name and was like, "You'll have to ask him about it." And yeah, it was weird. Like we can be objective about this, right? Like it's not like the olive branch just because we won, but like the officiating and the penalties called for both sides was like really, really weird in how they officiated the game, both like from a penalty standpoint and just from like regular play calls. Like the four I have noted was, why wasn't our touchdown on our first drive reviewed? Like, why wasn't it reviewed if Kendrick pushed
was clearly in?
Yeah. Like, why wasn't that
don't
reviewed?
know.
That angle clearly shows that the ball's crossed the plane. Like, I don't get why that wasn't called in to be reviewed.
I was same thing, especially so even more weird after how much they're hyping the reviews because of the Friday night broadcast.
Yeah, because
And
it
the
was so
fact that
good.
it was so good. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sure they're going to review this. And just, it never came. Yeah, it made no sense to me. No sense.
That one never
And,
came?
How could the line judge possibly have known with certainty? There was no way.
There's no way the top line judge could have seen that. And the top line judge was the one that was calling that the ball was down, which is like, what are you saying? And then, the two other ones I noted, and there are definitely more, but the more egregious ones, like in the fourth quarter, fourth down and short, the play where they pulled out the chains for the measurement. Like, how are you not going to review where the ball was? Like, how are you just placing the ball based on where one of the line judges like spotted it in that mess? I'm not saying that you could have figured it out of where it was based on the pile, but you have to have at least looked at it because of how close it is.
Are you saying? I thought it was weird that they didn't bring the chains out on the third down, like after the third down play.
That too.
To set up the fourth down play.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And then I also don't understand how we didn't get a foot. Like, Jaren could have just like jumped between a lineman's legs for a foot. Foot. Like, we did not have to go. Like, the fact that we didn't convert on that, oh my gosh, this just brings everything back. Yeah. Okay, what were your other ones?
Well, and the last one, of course, is in the fourth quarter, that wide receiver foot out of bounds that they called in that continued
Where they
their
didn't
drive.
review it.
Well, they did review it, and they said that it's the same as the call on the field.
Yes. Sorry.
Where like you
Where they
see the
upheld
replay,
it.
and there's
Yes.
literally no grass between his toe and the white line. So that should be out. And then of course the targeting call. That's the last one, which is like they were like, "There's no targeting," and I'm like, "What?" I literally just watched a game earlier that day that had the same thing happen, and I think it's the Alabama game or later that day. The Alabama game, and the Alabama guy got tossed for doing the exact same thing where he led with the crown of his helmet and just hit a guy straight in the chest, and they tossed him.
You don't want to get me started on targeting.
I get targeting from just a rule standpoint, or like the two-prong approach, right? It's like either forcible contact to the head or leading with the crown of your helmet. Like, I get that from like just the words. I understand that. But it's like if he leads with the crown of the helmet, then yeah, he should be tossed because that's the that's the letter of the law and the rule. But like why he wasn't, that's beyond me. But
there were a couple of great broadcast highlights as well. One that I think I sent you in a screenshot potentially, where they changed the quarter to the first quarter.
Yeah, and they had
there had been a minute and a half.
Dude, did you realize when you sent me that screenshot that the records for the teams had already changed?
Yeah, no, I had not.
They
and
put
then
Cal
I
at
found out after the fact.
Yeah, they put Cal at 3-2. And then I can't remember what they put Boston College at, but they had already changed like the win losses.
And then when Boston College is driving down the field, down 4, they pull up the field goal range marker.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are you guys showing that?
There was a couple in the first
are they gonna
quarter
kick
too,
a field
right?
goal to lose? Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Wasn't there one in the first quarter too where the cameraman like absolutely lost the ball? He stayed on the quarterback, or he stayed on the running back when the quarterback still had the ball. And we were all confused.
Brings back the good old Pac-12 network days. It's really, it does bring that back. Yeah, I mean, look, the one that if I'm a Boston College fan that I'm, probably remembering is the pass interference on Trond, but I actually thought that was relatively blatant. And the thing is like, part of me was like, oh, Trond, I wish you had caught that. But then the interference is the reason why he didn't catch that ball. And so I think like that even more like justifies that being a flag. Yeah. So but like we got, dude, how many times have we watched this game and like we don't get that flag? And it's just like, well, another thing for us to be mad at. Winnable game comes down to one play, right? And we don't get the flag and we go home. I mean, we've watched that movie a lot.
Yeah, I mean some of the like Right for Cal staff that I was talking to about the game too, like Peter, right, who's like a big X's and O's guy. He's pretty sure that a couple of those plays were designed to draw the defensive PI call. Like it wasn't in the range of play. Like where the ball is placed and how the receiver runs that route is like made for them to call that, particularly because I think they had 2 defensive backs missing, right, and they were playing like unexperienced guys. So I think that was one of the things they tried to target if they needed to go down the field.
Sure. Expose it, yeah, on a younger player.
Yep.
Yeah, I think of all of them, like the Mason Mini non-PI call was the worst. He like straight up got tackled.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, the ball like could have been in a better spot. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like he literally catches that ball if their defender doesn't tackle him. Like I don't know what. Sometimes I feel like the broadcasters just have to find a way to back the refs because that's what they do. And
you have to be non-biased.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? Like he literally was tackled and the ball he easily could have come back to that ball, but yeah, it was definitely a tough watch, and I understand any Boston College fan that's upset the same way that we would have been upset, if it was a loss. And again, Rob, it goes back to my first point. I just want to have some wins where they don't come down to those what ifs. I think there's a wise prophet we knew that said, "I want a non what if season."
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think it's only a non-what if season if we're losing. Or like, wait,
if we're winning,
it's only a what if season if we're losing.
That's true. I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got the dub. So where do you land? My only disappointment I wrote down was just it still doesn't feel like we're getting home. And then who was it? What football game was I watching? I think I was watching Sunday Night Football, and they were talking about like the Packers defense and basically what happens to zone if you don't get any pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And that the zone just continually gets stretched. And I was curious, like, if that is a risk area for us.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you saw that a couple times, particularly even... I mean, that final drive, it did look like we were playing like a prevent zone, so it's not really a good comparison, but there were a couple other drives there where Lonergan is just sitting and waiting for a soft spot in the zone, and we're not collapsing the pocket fast enough for guys to get there. So I think your worry is valid. That was like the whole thing with Jared, right? When he was the quarterback here. It was like when you couldn't play zone against us because he would just sit in the pocket and he would just wait until a guy got open, because it's clear if he keeps running around and running routes, someone's bound to get open because there's going to be a lapse in communication where you're supposed to hand off a guy and the guy doesn't move with that receiver, or he's doubled up where there's two guys in his zone and he doesn't know which one to cover, and then one guy's busted open. So,
and isn't that that's like the air raid, bear raid to a T, right?
Yep.
Is that you end up having one more offensive player. There's always a mismatch or something like that.
I think
it's just a matter of time if you have a good enough O-line.
Yeah, I think the flip side for us though is it is a worry, but it's not as big of a worry because we have corners that can play man.
Right.
Like we have Brent Austin and we have Hezekiah Masters who can both play man. So if you're able to eliminate two guys on the outside from the jump, you can play zone in the middle and kind of go with it. The only issue becomes if Cade or Farrelly or Taggart, bites on a play action, let's say like on a run, and they try to fill the gap instead. You saw that a couple times where Lonergan would just throw the pass over the inside linebacker into that space between the safety and him, and then that's just that's an easy 18 or 8 to 20 yard gain. So that is the worry you have there, but you're hopeful that your safeties are good enough to make those tackles and be able to read the game that way, but also your inside linebackers aren't fully biting on any run play up the middle.
Last point I want to close this out with is, and it would be a shame to have a whole podcast where we don't talk about it, shades of Mikey Mo. Your guy, Rob.
Oh.
Your pick. Luke Farrelly. Game-winning interception. Did you run a lap around Headlands? Like, what happened? Did you high-five every person in there?
I was yelling, jumping up and down, high-fiving everyone. I think Avi put this in our writers Discord, but he was like, we saw, I think it was Avi. It was either Avi or Terrence, but one of them said, we basically saw the Marcus Ezef tackle and the Mikey Mo interception in the span of 1 minute of game time.
Yeah.
And in essence, that's what we saw. The Cam Sidney call out that you made earlier, that was basically the Marcus Ezef game-saving, tackle in the end zone on the goal line. Although it didn't end up in a touchback, and then Luke Farrelly with that. And then just the sheer comedy of the last 20 seconds of are we going to be able to get enough space to take a knee? The false start, and then finally the offsides.
It was kind of genius. I was texting my friends and I was like, well, if you false start 10 times in a row, then the defense will never know if you're actually going to hike the ball. So just keep them on their toes.
Yeah, everyone was putting their hands up in the air when we got a false start. And then I was like, relax. What's another 2 inches? It's half the distance to the goal. We were already backed up anyways.
Yeah, maybe Farrelly runs a little further out of the red zone, or out of the, maybe to the 5 next time.
Yeah, I think it was the moment, and then also, it would have started on the 2, but then he tossed the ball, so then we got backed up halfway, right? So it was basically under the 1.
Yeah, I forgot.
So that's what backed us up. But also
throwing the ball towards the Boston College sideline wasn't exactly
yeah. But I understand the moment of what had just happened.
Of course.
Yeah.
But in general, the direction of the other team is probably not where to throw that ball.
I think that the thing with the Farrelly interception too is if you watch the play, Lonergan does not see him at all.
Yeah.
Lonergan's reads go from left to right, and he sees. I don't know if it's his tight end or if it's a slot receiver, but he sees him open for that split second because Cade drifts left, and he sees it and he throws it, only to see Luke Farrelly shifting to his left and just right there in the path to pick it off.
The funny thing is, you see the tight end see it.
Yeah,
he sees it.
He sees
it.
it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Farrelly's thing was kind of like, remember our conversation with Kevin Riley like years ago, and when we asked him about that play against Oregon State, and he was basically saying that he didn't realize the reason he took off was because he didn't know whether he was beyond the line of scrimmage or not as the play developed.
Yeah.
I think that was the same thing with Luke, because he's already in the end zone. If he takes the knee there, we're out to the 20-yard line, right, or 25.
Yeah.
And we take the knee. But I don't think he realized where he was, which is why he took off.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I totally get. You're not sure if you intercepted that ball on the goal line, inside the end zone, in front of the goal line, so you have to gain space. But you also can't fully run off because there's the off chance of a fumble or a mistake, right? So he runs out and then he takes the knee, but
it's just it was a heads up play. I mean,
absolutely
it's a heads up play to go down, and yeah, you're right. I forgot about the penalty that made it worse. But yeah, if you're gonna do it all over again, get to the 6-yard line. Then that
but it's funny. Bill O'Brien talked about it in his press conference because of the offside rule that got us 5 yards. And he was like, they need to tell me how that rule works properly, because about 8 down linemen or whatnot. And he's like, it's my fault. I need to be able to coach it to these guys better. But he seemed like he was mad at the rule because it wasn't it. He didn't know that rule was I guess going to be looked at that intently of how many down linemen they have.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would be mad if I was him too. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, they just false started 3 times in a row.
All you need to do is keep running the ball, and you probably beat us. But no, you had to decide to pass.
I've heard that story before. He
did say that. He did say that at the end of the game too, though. He was he was talking about the final play of the game, and he said, because someone asked him was running on the table at the end, and he was like, yeah, it was, but we just thought the pass would give us a better opportunity to score, and so he didn't second guess his judgment, but he did say it was a process.
Well, it was a hell of a win. Let's go to what's ahead and let's close this thing out. ACC standings were 1-0.
Woohoo!
No losses in conference. That feels big. Key injuries. We lost Ryan McCullough and Isaiah Crosby for the season.
Yep.
Was McCullough this game or was he the last game?
I believe McCullough was the last game.
Oh, that one right at the end, huh?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so he's done for the year. Isaiah Crosby, both of those announced today by Coach Wilcox. We'll see what the injury report looks like, I believe, on Thursday when that comes out, and see how that changes anything. But
because Jaron was hobbling at the end.
Yeah, I think he was hobbling because they did that tush push right on at the one, and he just kind of got crunched up.
Yep.
But he looked fine afterwards. He was
evidence number one as to why not to
do the tush push. Yeah. You need someone of Jalen Hurts' stature and also a center by the name of Jason Kelce.
Well, they're doing it this year, and there's no Jason Kelce. All right, I digress. All right, season trajectory, Rob, did yours change?
Did it change? I mean, if we're going off of my 10-win season prediction, it probably changed. If we're going off of my realistic, more 8-win season projection, I think it still holds.
I want to know what it changed off of your 10.
What it would change to?
Yeah.
I'd probably bring it down. If we're going Vegas line odds too, I'd probably bring it down to 9.5 or 8.5, somewhere in there.
The half is throwing me off. What does it mean?
Or I mean, it's just the Vegas line, right? It's just I can't really pull it at 9 exactly, because I could give the argument for it being above 9 and also below 9. So it's
it's a cop out argument.
But I'm saying I'm saying it dropped. It would drop from 10 for sure, but it's just not I don't think it's dropped. It drops a lot.
Okay.
Also, because of how the other ACC teams played, but
you're at 9.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just keeping mine the same.
You're at 6. Yeah. You're at 6.
I think I was last at 7 because remember I keep adjusting.
You were at 7 after Minnesota.
and then went back to 6.
Went back to 6 after San Diego State, and you're saying you're still at 6.
Yeah, let's just keep it there. That's fine. I'll deal with the heat from Adams at another time.
Well, you'll deal with it after whatever happens against Duke.
Yes, I shall. Yeah. All right, take us home, Rob.
Well, there's not much to plug here today, folks, except for our live podcast recording on Memorial Glade at Oskey Village before the Duke game. So come on by around 5 o'clock. We'll be there for an hour talking ball with a special guest and going over the Boston College game, but also looking ahead to the Duke game later that evening. We're going to have stuff to give away, stickers, T-shirts, so on. So come on by. It's going to be a very, very fun time. Some people are making like game day signs to hold. I don't know how many people are going to be there, but you know, if you want to make one and bring one, by all means. And I think the last thing I'm going to plug here before we close out is I don't know when this podcast will drop, but Wednesday you will see some new merchandise from Warriors World with, you know, more collab merch with Right for California. So be on the lookout for that. The hint I will give about this collaboration and collection is culture. So I think a lot of people are going to like this one. So just stay tuned on Right for California and on our socials, and also Warriors World on their socials, and you'll see it on Wednesday. But that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Bear Cast. You're already listening to us, so you know where to find us. You can email us at goldenbearcast@gmail.com. You can find all the written stuff at rightforcalifornia.com. And that's it for us. We will see you on the Glade for Duke and homecoming. And as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.